All right, so this is one of the most haunted little strip malls in the city of Temecula. And this building is the oldest adobe building still standing in Temecula. And this is where I first heard some of my first ghost stories in Temecula. Sparked the idea to write the book of Temecula's ghost stories all these years later. Right after I finished high school, I worked at a restaurant. We'll go take a look at it. And that restaurant was haunted. I'll tell you some of the stories there. But all the stories in this whole strip mall stories about it being haunted, they all stem from the fact that this old adobe building, it's such a historic building. Now I just stopped in there. Right now it houses a maid service. I chatted with the staff there. The young lady there said that in the upper window, let's take a look here. I asked if I could go upstairs, but it's private. In that window, she says there's a little girl who appears sometimes. Some people have seen a little girl appearing in that window. She said one of her coworkers has heard some knocks and footsteps, but she said, well, it's an old building, come to be expected. But let's take a look at the plaque. So here's the historic site plaque, built in 1879. So it was a family home. And some of the most important families in Temecula's history lived here. But this old adobe building, as you can see, it's really been kept in a nice state. There's the back side of it. So because of this, the Gonzalez house, folks have had ghost activity in other spots here in this shopping center. There's a preschool over there. I'll just show you from a distance because it's not a good idea to go taking video around preschools, generally frowned upon. But this restaurant here, now it's an Indian food restaurant called Mantra. Back in the day, I used to work here, and it was a steakhouse called, first it was Tony's Spunky Steer, then RJ's Sizzling Steer. Now I think the door should be closed. Let's check it out. Yeah. Can we get up to the... Let's see if we can... Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. There you go. You can see there's a person there. Cool. He probably wonders what the hell we're doing there. Anyway, as you can see, there's a... You can kind of see the steakhouse decor in there still. But there's a back room, and the back room is where a lot of the strange stuff happened. It was always a little dark back there, and people didn't like to be seated back there. And a lot of people the people who worked there had experiences in that back room. I heard the stories almost immediately when I started working there. I chatted with the staff. I remember there was a dishwasher, and he said he was all alone in the place once washing dishes in the kitchen, had the whole big empty kitchen behind him, and he felt this pat on his shoulder. Turns around and there's just no one there. One of the bus boys told me that at the end of the day, he was all alone in the restaurant, and he went to that back room, and he had all the silverware wrapped up in those individual napkins, and he set it out on the tables and made it all look pretty, set the silverware wrapped napkins on each table and the place settings, and then he went back in the kitchen for a second, came back to the back room, and all the silverware was just piled up in a big pile on one of the tables. All the doors are still locked, and nobody's around. Another one of the cooks walked into that back room late at night, and he said he saw a little girl wearing Old West clothing in that back room. So all that happened right here at this restaurant. Now the staff, the management rather, they were hanging out one night after work. They were having some beers in the front room, and they hadn't had beer on tap back then. And they had their mugs of beers. They were sitting around smoking, and then they all kind of looked at one of the mugs on the table. It slowly starts sliding across the table, and then just whisks off the table, flies across the room, and smashes against the wall. So very strange things would happen here. And what everyone said was it was because of that historic house. Now, the version of the story back then was that back in the Old West days, there was a hangman's tree where that back room was. They said that hangman's tree had stretched right over the back room, and that's why that place was so haunted. So when I wrote my books, I researched it. Turns out, totally not true. Couldn't be true, because the only family that lived for miles around I mean, we're talking all the way around here, all across the street. There's an In-N-Out, there's an Arby's across the street. All around here, it was just a big ranch for the Gonzalez family. It was just this one family. They had some house guests, like Mercedes Pujol was a big figure in Temecula history. She lived with them for a while. But, dude, definitely no hangman's tree, because it was only one family who lived here. So if they started hanging people, they'd run out of people pretty quick. But let's go take a look at the front of the preschool. Now, this preschool apparently is haunted in recent years. I used to hang out in this strip mall a lot because my family went to a church that was where the preschool is now, Wild Roots. You can see it. I'll try not to film license plate numbers. There's the Wild Roots preschool. Just keep the camera up high. And there's Jefferson Road over there. So in that preschool, apparently doors open and close. People hear footsteps. Some of the staff has actually seen apparitions of little children that just disappear. One of the teachers there, I chatted with her a couple years ago, and she told me she was in there all by herself. And back in the toy room where all the kids' toys were, they had a little toy drum, and she heard that drum just start playing all by itself. Boom, 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 boom. And she went back to make sure that there were no kids. Room's definitely empty. And when she walked back there, that drum just flew across the room. So she feels like it was a little child ghost who just wanted to play with the toys that were set out. So I don't know, a lot of strange things happening in this little strip mall here on Jefferson, right here in Temecula, California. Nice little haunted strip mall.